I found the proof on a quiet Monday, a slip of paper that told the whole story in numbers and timestamps. My chest went cold, then still. I didn't throw a fit or break a glass. I sat with it and I decided I would not play the part everyone expects. Staying calm was not weakness, it was a choice. I kept my voice level, my face plain, and my days boring on purpose. The house stayed normal so I could think. What mattered most to her wasn't me, not really. It was the audience she curated, the glow she kept polished for friends and coworkers. She loved applause more than honesty, that was the pressure point. This isn't a scream-and-sob story, it's the story of a slow fuse. I chose patience over chaos, facts over noise, timing over impulse. When the moment came, I wanted the truth to speak without me raising my voice. You'll see how I found a way to hold a mirror up to her favorite thing, her social image, and let it crack on its own. No name-calling, no public rant, no messy posts, just quiet, simple proof that made the room go still. If you've been there, you know the pull to scorch the earth. You also know the hollow after. I wanted something different, something that let me leave with my head high, my story straight, and no regret for how I acted. In this post, I'll share the steps I took, the trap I did not set, and the moment everything shifted without a single shout. It's a real account, clean and clear. No gore, no gloating, just what happened when dignity met deception. Read on if you want a calm blueprint for the loudest truth. This is how I found out, stayed quiet, and took away the only thing she truly cared about. Signs I ignored until the truth hit hard. I had warnings long before the proof hit my palm. Little shifts, easy to excuse, easy to file under stress or routine. I told myself love needs trust and trust needs space. That was the story I used to stay calm while the floor thinned under me. The truth did not arrive with fireworks. It came as ink on paper, a time stamp that matched a gap in her day. I felt heat, then ice, then a stillness that felt like armor. I would not break plates or beg for answers. I would gather them. I would let the truth do the talking when the time was right. That one receipt that changed everything. It was folded into a jacket pocket I never wore. A slick strip of paper, still warm from the dryer, pressed into my hand like a dare. The date matched the afternoon she claimed to be stuck in a meeting. The restaurant was 2 neighborhoods away, a place she hated or said she did. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, a dessert for sharing. A tip that looked like guilt trying to be generous. My chest went tight, then steady. I sat on the edge of the bed and traced the time, the total, the last 4 digits of a card she never used with me. I pulled up our calendar and saw the meeting block. I checked her location history, the part she swore she never turned on, and saw the dot sitting still across town for 2 hours and 8 minutes. The puzzle did not need many pieces. It was already a picture. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask who he was and why my dinner went cold that night while she texted under the table. Instead, I put the receipt in a plain white envelope and wrote the date on the front. Calm works like a lid on a boiling pot. It does not change the heat, it gives it shape. Small things carry big secrets. A stray hair on a coat. A sudden new perfume she calls a sample. Silence after a text pings, followed by a laugh that arrives late. Each one alone is nothing. Together they draw a straight line. The timeline came fast once I stopped making excuses. The new gym routine. The late walks on nights that did not ask for walks. The shift from sharing everything to guarding the phone like a passport. I set the receipt on my desk right next to an empty coffee mug, and I decided to move slow on purpose. No drama, no warning shot. I would build a record that spoke for itself. What did calm look like that night? I cooked dinner, asked about her day, and watched her face move through the answers. I nodded and smiled. I cleaned the plates by hand just to feel something solid. Then I slept on the couch and told her I fell asleep watching a show. She laughed and said I was getting old. I closed my eyes and held the envelope like a flare I refused to light, pretending life was fine while my world cracked. The next 3 days felt like walking across glass in socks. I kept the house quiet, the way you might when a baby sleeps in the next room, only this time the baby was the truth and I needed it to grow. I did normal. I packed lunches, took out trash, answered emails, and made small talk. I slept on the couch to let her rest. She said I was sweet. I watched her check her phone and tilted away from me. I watched her smile at nothing. I watched the light in her face shift when a name popped up that she tried to ignore. My hands stayed still, my eyes did not. Those days took a toll. Food tasted like cardboard. Sounds felt too sharp. I spoke less so I would not say more than I should. I kept a small notepad in my pocket and wrote down simple things like a clerk taking inventory. Tuesday 7:12 p.m. left for errand, came back at 8:49 p.m. Wednesday 6:30 a.m. showered before gym, perfume at the door. Thursday 9:03 p.m. muted a call, smiled at the lock screen. Why not confront her right then? Because I had read too many stories where people got half-truths and tears. They went in hot and came out with nothing they could use. I wanted more than a scene. I wanted something clean, the kind of proof that does not wobble under pressure. So I built my patience like a spine. I placed the receipt alongside screenshots of calendar gaps and a photo of the restaurant sign taken from the sidewalk. I saved a copy of a text thread she thought she cleared, a grab I caught when she forgot her phone on the counter for a minute. None of it was stolen, all of it was found. At night, I lay on the couch and counted the steps between me and the bedroom. I measured the distance between who we were and who we had become. I reminded myself that anger is loud but facts are louder. I wanted her to face the truth when there was no door to run through. I watched her morning rehearsals, the way she tested lines in the mirror. She practiced a laugh that belonged to dinner guests, not to us. She told a story about being so busy, like it was a badge. She ironed her image while the truth wrinkled underneath. By the third night, my calm felt like a suit I had learned to wear, not to hide but to move with purpose. I was tired, yes, but focused. The plan was simple. Wait, watch, gather, then act where it mattered most. She had built a stage out of our life. I would not drag her to mine. I would let the lights find her where she stood. Those days did not break me, they shaped me. Every quiet hour was a stitch, closing a wound long before I looked at it. When the time came to speak, I would not need to shout. I would only need to open the envelope. Why I chose silence over a big fight. Silence is not empty. It holds space for timing, for proof, for a plan. I learned that in the longest 3 days of my life, when I pretended to sleep while my mind did the heavy lifting. A fight would have given her a stage. Silence gave me the room to move. Calm was my shield and later my blade, not loud, not messy, just precise. When the truth finally stood in front of people she cared about, I did not need to shout. The room did the talking for me. The power of staying cool in crisis. Rage pushes you to act fast. Calm lets you act right. I wanted more than a scene. I wanted results, the kind that last longer than a night of yelling and slammed doors. Silence gave me these edges. Clearer thinking, with a cool head, patterns showed up. Times, roots, excuses, the puzzle pieces lined themselves up because I was not shaking the table. Better timing, impulse wants to blow everything up right now. Patience lets the moment ripen. When the right audience was in the room, the truth landed harder. Cleaner proof, anger scrambles facts. Calm gathers them, screenshots, receipts, tiny details most people ignore. Each one mattered later. Control of the story, a big fight hands the microphone to drama. Tears, blame, spinning. Staying quiet kept her from twisting the narrative before the truth was ready. Dignity, the way you carry yourself during a crisis follows you. I wanted to walk away with my name intact, not a trail of scenes I could not take back. Here is the personal pivot that changed everything for me. I realized that a blowout would only help her. She was built for performance. She knew how to cry on cue and turn an argument into a sympathy tour. If I swung at her pride, she would stand on it and call it a podium. Silence stopped that script. It took away the applause and left her with a mirror. Quiet felt like sitting on a live wire, but in that stillness, strategy clicked into place. I slept on the couch on purpose. I asked nothing, so she offered nothing I had to untangle. I listened, I watched. I wrote things down so my mind did not have to carry everything at once. When I finally moved, I did not hesitate. There was no room for doubt because the facts were already lined up. Silence is not passive. Silence is a locked jaw and steady hands. It is choosing your battlefield and then letting the truth do the heavy lifting. Lessons from others who kept their cool. I am not the first person to pick quiet over chaos. I spent nights reading stories from people who chose patience, and I took notes. The patterns were clear and they worked without yelling. Across threads in places like r/revengestories, r/surviving infidelity, and even r/nuclear revenge, I saw the same playbook done a dozen different ways. The moves were quiet, but the outcomes were loud. Silent withdrawal, many stepped back without warning, moved money into safe accounts and lined up a new place to stay. No fight, just a clean exit. The cheater got hit with silence first, then absence. Indirect exposure: instead of a public blast, people let the truth spread in private circles. A few shared proof with close friends or family, then said nothing. The story moved on its own, which hurt more than any rant. Evidence first, emotion second. The calm ones kept receipts, kept logs, and kept their cool. When they finally revealed the truth, there was no debate. Facts pinned the story to the wall. No messy posts. The strongest results came when people skipped social media drama. They let the right eyes see the proof, then let silence do the rest. Reputations fell without a single caption. Exit with purpose. The goal was not a scorched earth, it was freedom with proof. They left with their heads high and their story straight. One Redditor described watching a partner bask in praise, then quietly placing undeniable proof where mutual friends would find it. No insults, no names, just a calm reveal that made the room stop. Another shared how they gathered everything they needed, moved out on a Sunday morning, and left a folder behind with copies of key messages. No noise, only the kind of clarity that closes doors for good. On a different thread, someone explained how they stayed polite in public, gave no hint of trouble, and let a small group see the truth first. The cheater had nowhere to spin. The image crumbled without a fight. These stories lit a path I could follow. They showed how you can hold your line without a scene. They also reminded me of something important. Revenge is lightning. It feels powerful, then it fades. Integrity is the current that stays. The people who kept their cool got both. A moment where the truth landed and a life they could stand in after. I took what worked and applied it to my own mess. Quiet days, careful steps, a reveal that did not need loud words, and when it was over I was not wrung out from a fight, I was steady. That is the part I keep. Building my plan, targeting what she valued most. I kept my eyes on the prize, not the pain. She fed on approval, on compliments at the table, on the way friends looked at her when she told a story. That was the thread to pull. If I stayed calm and precise, the truth would hit where it mattered to her most, her image. Gathering proof without a word. I gave myself 3 days of quiet work. No fights, no cold questions, no hints. I moved like a night watchman, steady and unseen, and I built a record that could not be argued with. Here is how I kept emotions from steering the wheel. Routine first, I kept the house normal. Breakfast, laundry, the same music in the kitchen. Boredom masked intent, which gave me time to collect. A written log: dates, times, arrivals, exits, odd habits. Every note was short and exact. It turned vague feelings into a timeline. Photos and screenshots. I took photos of the restaurant sign, the receipt, the calendar gaps. I screenshotted repeated meetings that matched the receipts. No edits, only originals. Phone moments without snooping past consent. When her phone sat open on the counter, I noted caller initials and timestamps. If she left a preview on display, I snapped a clear, lawful screenshot. No guessing games. Recovering deleted texts, I checked device backup she had already set up. Old cloud syncs sometimes keep fragments. I exported a copy of my own message history too, since her replies showed patterns. I also looked at shared devices tied to the same calendar. Deleted does not always mean gone, and I only pulled what lived in accounts we both used. Cross-checks: I matched the date on the receipt to her late rush at work, then to location history she had not turned off. The dots lined up without me adding a single word. The goal was simple: build quiet certainty. Every piece stood on its own. Together they formed a clean picture. I kept my voice soft and my schedule boring, which made her relax into habit. That was the tell. While she performed, I archived. I treated the work like a case file. No drama, only facts. If a detail felt shaky, I left it out. I did not need everything, I needed the right things. When I sealed the envelope that held the proof, the paper felt heavier than it should, like it carried the weight of the room I was about to walk into. Why her social circle was the perfect stage. She did not measure love in time or trust. She measured it in attention. Friends' dinners were her spotlight. The right outfit, the right toast, the right laugh. That table was her safe zone. That is why I chose it. Group settings change the air in a room. You do not need to accuse anyone. You only need to place the truth where eyes can land on it at the same time. People fill the silence for you. They read, they look up, they cross-check memories. The room does the math. I had read stories from threads on Reddit, the kind where people kept calm and let a small circle see what was hidden. The pattern was clear in those accounts. Subtle exposure hits harder when reputation is currency. Those who live for praise feel every ripple. A single raised eyebrow can shake weeks of polish. Silence beats a speech. Short reveals keep control. You show proof, you wait, others handle the questions. The circle knows the backstory. Friends remember timelines and inside jokes. They already have context, which gives your proof sharp edges. No public blast is needed. The story spreads on its own. In those online accounts, quiet reveals led to clear consequences without a messy post. Her friend's dinner was built for her glow. The invite list was hand-picked. The dessert was planned. The room was primed to adore her. That is why it worked. When the album reached their hands, the applause paused. You could feel the air pull tight. I did not have to accuse her. The evidence sat between photos of birthdays and road trips like a stain you cannot unsee. Choosing that table was not spite, it was precision. She had built a story of us that relied on faithful characters and clean lines. Placing proof in that space removed the script. No shouting, no names, only the quiet shock of people seeing what they were never meant to see. That is how image breaks, not with a bang but with a look passed between friends who now know the truth. The dinner that shattered her perfect facade. I waited 3 days after the receipt, 3 days of plain routines and quiet rooms. I kept my face smooth and my words light. On the 4th day, she planned a dinner to celebrate a work win, her kind of stage. I brought a cheap bottle, a steady smile, and an album that felt heavier than paper should. The room felt warm and easy. Friends arrived with flowers and jokes. She floated from seat to seat, bright and practiced. I let her have it. I poured drinks, asked about projects, and laughed at safe parts of old stories. I waited for dessert, the moment when people lean back and listen. That was the moment the truth would stand up. The toast that set the trap. I stood with my glass and let the room settle. My voice stayed level, not too loud, not sharp. I thanked everyone for coming. I thanked her for pulling the group together like she always did. Then I lifted my glass and spoke about trust. I kept it simple, like a tip stitched into a napkin. Trust is light until you hold it wrong. Trust is quiet, but it keeps a house together. I did not accuse anyone. I did not hint at a fight. I talked about how we grow when we protect honesty and how rooms like this one are where truth should feel safe. Eyes softened, shoulders dropped, people nodded. It sounded like a blessing, not a warning. That was the point. The table leaned in without knowing why. Then I set the album on the table. A clean, white book, 5 years of us in glossy pages, road trips, birthdays, quiet mornings with coffee. I told everyone I wanted to end the night with gratitude, to pass around our best parts so we could remember what holds people together. I asked them to take a look, page by page. The album started with smiles. 3 pages in, a receipt rested in a sleeve like a keepsake. Not highlighted, not circled, just present. A date, a time, 2 entrees, a bottle. A napkin followed, the kind from that same place, with a short line written in her hand. A few pages later, a screenshot of a thread, clean and sharp, with the names trimmed for privacy but the meaning clear. I had tucked a second receipt deeper, the one that matched the long meeting that never happened. No speech, no pointed finger, I let paper carry the weight. The room got quiet in the way rooms do when everyone reads the same line at once. She watched the album move. She smiled at first, then paused. She sipped water and laughed too quickly. Her eyes tracked the book like it was a fuse. I did not rush anything. I stood still, holding my glass, and waited for the end of the page. Watching the truth unfold in slow motion. Her face changed in frames, not seconds. The first shift was small, a flicker near her eyes when the receipt landed. Then came the tightness around her mouth when the napkin made its slow tour. By the time the screenshot reached the couple at the end, color had drained to a careful gray. Friends glanced up, then down, then up again. You could hear forks settle. The jokes died without a sound. No one gasped. They did not need to. They already knew her calendar, her stories, her favorite excuses. The pieces clicked in their heads like a lock finding its code. One friend held the album a little longer, lips pressed into a line. Another looked at me, then away, like he was checking for anger. I kept my face still. I did not rescue the moment, and I did not break it. The room did the work. She tried a smile, then another. She reached for the album and missed by an inch. Her hand shook when she finally touched the page. She skimmed too fast, the way people do when they want the end to change. It did not. The questions stayed soft, almost kind. A quiet "is this real?" A careful "when was this?" No one raised a voice. No one defended her. The silence felt dense, like a storm that chooses not to rain. She stood without finishing her dessert. No speech, no apology. She said she needed air and walked down the hall like the floor tilted. The door clicked. The night kept breathing. Our friends stayed. They stacked plates in a neat pile and spoke in low voices. They offered rides, a couch, tea, anything. I told them I was fine. I meant it. I had kept my dignity clean through every step, and now it sat beside me like a steady hand. There was no scene, no names, no curses, only the truth sitting in a book that started with joy and ended with proof. When the last guest left, I picked up the album and felt the same weight that had been there all day. I put it back in its box and washed the glasses by hand. Dignity tastes like cold water after a long run, quiet and pure. I slept well that night, not because it felt good but because it felt right. The truth had walked through the room on its own, and I had not let anger drag it down. After the fall, moving on with my head high. The night after the dinner felt quiet in a new way. I was not shaking. I was not planning the next blow. I wanted closure that did not stain me. So I moved like someone who knew what mattered now, not yesterday. The goal was to make the break clean, protect what was mine, and step forward without a mess behind me. Quick actions to protect myself. I treated the next morning like a checklist, not spite, just order. These moves closed the door fast and kept me safe while I healed. Change passwords, email, bank, cloud storage, streaming, phone backups. I set new passwords and turned on two-factor. I signed out of all devices. Secure finances. I froze joint cards, opened a new checking account, and turned off auto-pays that hit shared funds. I downloaded statements for my records. Backup proof and personal files. I saved copies of the album pages, texts, and receipts to a private drive. I also backed up photos, tax files, and work docs that were mine. Protect devices. I updated pins on my phone and laptop, removed shared fingerprints, and disabled shared location on apps. Clean and simple. Legal basics. I filed for separation with my own counsel. I kept all communication in writing. I did not send threats, facts only. Housing and mail. I set a mail forward to a safe address. I picked a place to stay that gave me quiet. If you cannot move yet, set a clear timeline. Health first. I booked a doctor visit and got tested. No shame. I also scheduled time with a therapist, not to vent but to steady my next steps. Clean communication. I kept messages short, no long speeches, one-line updates, clear asks, and no late-night texts. Social settings. I did not post a thing. No hints, no quotes, no songs. Silence kept the story clean and my name clear. Support circle. I told 2 friends I trust. They knew the facts, not the gossip. They checked in without stirring the pot. These steps were not about winning. They were about closing the chapter with a record, a plan, and a calm body. Every action made the noise fade. Every password change felt like pulling a thorn. The real cost of revenge and what I learned. Revenge felt sharp for a minute, then it felt empty. After the album made its slow tour, I sat in a clean kitchen and felt nothing but air. The room did the talking, and she had to look at herself with no stage to stand on. That was the point, but the rush wore off fast. Here is what I learned in the quiet that followed. The high is short, the reveal hit hard, then it was gone. I still had to face mornings, dishes, and an empty couch. Truth does the work. I did not need to shout or smear. The proof said it all. No follow-up attack could add to it. Subtle beats loud, soft, clear facts reach farther than 100 arguments. People remember evidence, they forget rants. Silence holds power. By not posting or bragging, I kept my dignity. She had to answer to herself and her circle, not to my rage. Healing needs space. Revenge does not heal. Routine does, sleep does, friends who sit with you do. If I could speak to you in the middle of your storm, I would say this. Tell the truth, then go quiet. No public scenes. No endless fights that only feed drama. Let your proof stand, then step back. Set your boundaries, handle your paperwork, and take care of your body. That is how you keep your head high. The album forced her to face what she did without me turning bitter. It bent her image because it was honest, not cruel, honest. That difference kept me human when the rush faded. I still had nights that felt too wide. I still reached for habits that were gone, but I chose a clean exit over a dirty war. I chose to be the one who spoke once with proof, then walked on. Quiet is heavy at first, then it becomes a hand on your back. If you are here, make it simple, protect yourself fast, tell the truth once, let it travel without you, then start living like your name is yours again. Calm was the sharpest tool. The proof spoke, the room listened, and the illusion she lived by cracked without me losing my peace. That is the core lesson here. When betrayal hits, you can choose dignity over destruction. You can ruin the lie without ruining yourself. The steps were simple, not easy. Gather facts, protect your life, reveal once, then go quiet. No public blasts, no shouting, no mess you have to clean up later. The truth carried farther because the delivery was clean. Her image fell, my name stayed steady. If you are standing where I stood, choose a path that heals long after the rush fades. Quiet certainty beats chaos. Protect your body, your money, your records, and your future. Let your actions fit your values. Let the mirror do the damage, not your rage. Reddit story lovers know this rhythm well. The most gripping posts are not the loudest ones, they are the ones where proof lands and silence seals it. If this story hit close, share yours. What choice did you make when you learned the truth? What helped you keep your dignity when every nerve wanted payback? Thank you for watching to the end. Keep this blueprint close, and if you need it, move with care and purpose. The best revenge is not a spectacle. It is a steady life on the other side, your peace intact, the lie undone, and your future wide open.